Good evening, good evening, good evening. Peace and blessings, everybody. I want to welcome you to the October 3rd, 2022 meeting of CB11's Human Services Committee. My name is Isaac Scott, and I am the chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:03 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Community Associate Marlene Pierre, the staff liaison to our committee. To conduct an efficient meeting, I'm going to just run us through some ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or if you wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through the Zoom. If you click the participants icon, a participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to staff, and we'll do our best to get everything situated for you. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you're having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or a comment about subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand to the Zoom and wait to be recognized. At this time, we will take attendance by roll call. Board members, you can unmute yourselves and answer present when you hear your name called.
Present.
Juhaid Chowdhury. Judith Ferraro.
Present.
Osendi Garcia. Brandon Gillespie.
Present.
Jennifer Meyer.
Present.
Arturo Perez.
Present.
Isaac Scott.
Present.
Robin Strachan.
Present.
And Anne Marie Vasquez. You have a quorum, Pastor Scott.
Okay, thank you very, very much. So the agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand to Zoom. Okay, seeing no hands, we will go ahead and do that. Okay, adoption of the committee minutes. The minutes from last meeting were distributed to the committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there's no objections, we will adopt the minutes from that from that meeting. Committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Looking and seeing no objections, the minutes from the last committee meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB11 website. Okay, with that, we are going to transition into our announcements. So the first announcement is Mayor Adams issued an emergency executive order 210, which extends the emergency order in place for 30 days through October 22nd, 2022. So as a result, CB11 will continue to hold its meetings remotely via Zoom through October 22nd. So all meetings so far up until the 22nd will be virtual. And after that, we will be in person if we do not hear anything before then. So just keep your ears and eyes out for that one. The next announcement, I wanted to make an announcement that comes from the work that I do at Mount Zion AME Church on 116th Street in East Harlem, in collaboration with the program that I founded at Columbia University. Another choice, Youth and Family Outreach, in partnership with the Confined Arts, has secured a grant for the purposes of launching the Strategic Arts Engagement Initiative. This initiative specifically is geared towards helping practitioners increase their, I want to say, I'm trying to just put it take it out of all of the jargon and put it in plain language. And the plainest language is to help practitioners better engage people personally and groups of people via the arts. So to enhance people's and practitioners' community engagement and interpersonal engagement. So this in work setting could look like improving mentorship and counseling techniques. This could look like education on trauma-informed practices for clinicians by clients. So not specifically clients speaking to, here's what trauma-informed looks like, but more like hearing it from the client's perspective, and here's what it means to be trauma-informed when I'm going through this particular issue. So it's actually, these trainings are meant for practitioners, so they wouldn't be the practitioners speaking to the community. This is actually more of a community perspective, educating practitioners on how to better use the arts as a tool to increase and enhance engagement. Also, that could look like exploring art and physical therapy for movement enhancement. So things like that. So just wanted to put that on you all's radar. Workshops will begin as soon as November, and when as we have more recruitment information available and more information on the website available, I will keep everyone posted. And I will specifically make sure that you all get emailed about all of that. So just wanted to flag that for you all. If there are any questions about that announcement, and if there are any other announcements, I will entertain those now. Are there any questions about the announcement I just gave, or is there? Hey, Robin.
Hi, Isaac. Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes.
Is there a fee for
No.
participating?
Thank you. The purpose of the grant was so that we could offer free workshops. So everything is free. No. The only thing, it will be like limited capacity in person. So what we can't do, all workshops will be hybrid. So some of them are workshops and some of them are actual artistic literacy training. So for the most part, there will be a hybrid setup. So you can be in person with the facilitators, or you can be on Zoom accessing the same information. So yes, everything is free. Forgive me for not saying that. So, any other questions, or do we want to? I want to open the floor for any other announcements right now. First, from any community board members. No, nothing new happening. Anything going on this week at work? So I'll keep us moving because we do have some work to do this evening. We can transition on over into our informational updates section. So do we have? Okay, yeah. So we will have our first update from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. I believe we have Mr. John Padmore on, who is the Acting Assistant Commissioner for the Harlem Health Action Center. Are you there, Mr. Padmore?
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone.
How you doing?
How you doing? Chairman Scott, my name is actually Padmore John. John is the last name. No worries. I'm the Acting Assistant Commissioner for the Harlem Bureau of Neighborhood Health. Within that bureau is the Action Center, which is located at 115th and Lexington, as well as the East Harlem Asthma Center of Excellence, which is at 110th and Lexington Avenue. Always a pleasure to be here with the Community Board 11. And I wanted to be here. I know this is the beginning of the sessions. Last month I was over at Community Board 9. This time I'll be at CB11, next time I'll be at CB12, but there will be various individuals from the office that will be participating on these sessions, just to kind of hear some of the challenges, some of the faces, some of the information that is required, to let you know some of the things that we are doing, as well as being able to be supportive of some of the needs of the community. So thank you for letting us being able to be here today. I know that the intent here was to get a little bit of update around some of the key the various challenges disease-wise that we are facing across the city, across our state to some extent. And I will start with polio. So we're continuing to provide information around polio. In the essence, one of the key things that we want to just let everyone know that there has been there's continuing surveillance ongoing in terms of some of the locations of where previously where some of these the wastewater treatment, which is what we have been really specifically looking at in terms of identifying some of the locations that surveillance continues to happen. It is obviously one of the other things I think that the messaging that we are trying to put forward is that those who are vaccinated are very unlikely to be impacted by this recent location identification of polio cases. And we want to just let everyone know that the majority of adults in New York City were vaccinated against polio as children. The vaccine is 99% effective against paralytic polio. So the majority of adults should be in good spaces. For those who have not been vaccinated, of course, that's where the risk comes in. And we want to make sure that individuals know of locations of where that can be, or where vaccinations can occur. There is a risk of exposure, of course, if you're not appropriately vaccinated. And we are asking that anyone who do not believe or unsure whether they're vaccinated, that should reach out to their primary care provider, be able to have conversations with them. If they do not have a primary care provider, you ask that you can call 311 and they'll be able to provide information about how is the best way for that to become vaccinated, or to even identify whether or not you were appropriately vaccinated. If you did grow up here in New York City and as a child and received the vaccination, it would be in the city record. So there's an opportunity even for parents to be able to check this for the children or for adults who may have done this quite some time ago. There's also more information that the agency is putting out. So if you go to nyc.gov, and I can put this in the chat, nyc.gov/health/polio, it's an opportunity for individuals to get more information about currently what the agency is doing and about different things that can be done to ensure that you are taking care of yourself and your family. So that's in the chat there. I don't know if there's any questions around polio. If not, I can go on to the monkeypox.
Are there any questions about polio, Mr. John?
Okay.
No.
All right. Sure. So similarly for monkeypox, there are two things that the agency is really trying to do. Of course, trying to ensure that folks have access to the vaccination. So similarly, like COVID is a 2-dose regimen to get your vaccination, the vaccination to be fully vaccinated against monkeypox. There's obviously open to all adults, but there's those who are any individual who think that they are engaging in behavior that puts them at risk is especially encouraged to go get the vaccines. Again, this is there's a website for individuals to be able to actually go to get appointments. One of the closest location, I believe, at least to run by the city that is conducting the vaccinations on 135th and 5th Avenue. Actually 137th and 5th Avenue at the typically the sexual health clinic there. But in this case, they have been continuing to provide the facility as a vaccine, as a monkeypox vaccine location. So that continues to be available for the community. There is also a lot of community-based partner organizations that has partnered with Department of Health that are providing messaging around this. What are the different behaviors that may be putting someone at risk? What are some of the underlying health conditions that may be putting someone at risk? And just to make sure that these individuals are taking the appropriate precaution to prevent putting themselves in a situation where they may be impacted by this. I also there's a lot of information around this on the website. I will put that in the chat as well. One of the first things, of course, is just to get the information, but also on that link, you will also be able to go if anyone is interested in getting the vaccine and how they may be able to get an appointment. So I'll put that in the link as well. Don't know if there are any questions around monkeypox.
Are there any questions for Mr. John about either polio or monkeypox? Vaccinations related to it?
Okay, so I will move on to COVID. Yes, there's a whole bunch of infectious diseases that we're dealing with. These are the times, unfortunately, that we are living in. Of course, many of you know the challenges that initially we had in addressing COVID within our communities. There have been a concentrated effort, the work of community-based organizations and partners to be able to ensure that we do turn around those numbers, and we are seeing increase. At least for one of the initial goals that the agency had was to make sure that neighborhoods that we call as TREE, which is neighborhoods that what we trend as racially inclusive and equity neighborhoods, predominantly in certain places within Bronx, South Bronx, Central and East Harlem, Central Brooklyn, in the Elmhurst neighborhood of Queens and Northern Staten Island. We have concentrated efforts in those particular places because we know that there has been a history of disinvestment in some of those neighborhoods that has left those neighborhoods a little bit more susceptible to some of the infectious diseases and problems that arise in gaining access to COVID vaccination. So one of the key things that we wanted to do was to be able to have many of these neighborhoods at least reaching 80% vaccination rates, and that's something that has been accomplished. That's for the first and second dose. Now we know beyond the second dose that we had the boosters, and then now is the bivariants. We are encouraging individuals to be vaccinated with the bivariants, some of the new bivariants that have recently come up, and put it in the chat a little bit more information around the coronavirus, but also places where you might be able to get those bivariants. Many of you may have known that at some point, our location at 115th Street and Lexington Avenue was a vaccinations point of dispensation that no longer is available. We have since the end of the summer, that point of dispensation was closed. But there are other city-run sites, including Metropolitan Hospital, that continue to provide the vaccination, as well as community-based partners such as FQHCs, including Borican and IFH. So those are still spaces and places where you can go to be able to get the vaccination. We similarly with monkeypox, we have also partnered with community-based organizations that continue to go across the neighborhood, speaking with partners, speaking with residents on the ground, providing information, providing messaging about how is the best ways to continue, what is the latest the update on the virus, and how they can get information to address those. So that's something that we will continue to probably see what we call the public health core. And these are members of community health workers that are actually hired by community-based organizations that are working together with the Department of Health to get this messaging out. We also there's also something we offer as a speakers bureau. So if anyone is looking to get information as part of the, whether it's on monkeypox or it's on COVID, you can reach out to to the Department of Health to be able to get speakers to discuss this for your organization or for an event. I'll stop there. If there are any very specific questions that I can take.
Yeah, so you said that information to get personnel to come speak to your site is available on either one of the websites for each one of them.
No, that's a separate part. I will have to send that. I can send that over to you, Mrs. Scott, and you can share it with the rest of your committee. But it's a different link, and you just put in the information about when you're planning to have an event and the type of who you want, like the person to find that information for, speak about, whether it's monkeypox or COVID, and you will be able to identify that and identify someone to present at your event. But I will write a note just to make sure that I can get that to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Are there any questions for Mr. John about these updates? He's spoken a lot about polio, monkeypox, and also COVID-19. Wondering if there are any questions. I want to encourage everyone, okay, I do see one person. Can we allow Marlene for Crystal to speak, to ask a question?
She's allowed to speak. She can speak, yeah.
Okay, Crystal, please unmute yourself and ask a question. Crystal Glover?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, how are you? I'm new here. I wrote the committee because my son is now 3. He was diagnosed with autism about 3-4 months ago at the age of 2. And I started a nonprofit organization for children with autism. So, you know, it's like people don't be alone because it could be frustrated, overwhelming at times dealing with a toddler with autism. And I had emailed the borough committee because I wanted to do like a couple of things like food giveaway and, you know, things like that. And they sent me the link to join today. So I just joined and wanted to know, like, what are you guys about?
Well, this is the community board. This is the Manhattan Community Board 11 overseeing East Harlem, Randall's Island, Ward's Island. A lot of the work we are doing is centered around seeing what you're talking about. But I think that what you I'm sorry. So I had requested to hear from Crystal, but you could you pronounce the name for me?
Nakia.
Nakia Spradley. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that we should touch base, me and you, offline, and really talk about what it is you're trying to do. Also, how you can present to this community board the work that you are doing, because it sounds very, very important and very relevant.
Okay.
We want to hear about it. So I just want to make sure we can make some space for you so we can do it the right way and give you time, allow you to present the work that you're doing. But we can talk more about some of the other extracurricular stuff that you were talking about, that you mentioned.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, if you would put your email in the chat for me, that would be good.
No problem. I'll do that right now. Thank you.
I appreciate you. So I wanted to just going back to Mr. John's presentation on these different health crises. Are there any other questions from any board members, any community members? Say going once, going twice.
I'm not sure if Crystal says.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, is this Crystal?
Yes. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear. Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. All these devices I'm trying. But I'm concerned about NYCHA. Some tenant associations are using COVID for an excuse to continue with Zoom meetings and not do in-person meetings. And there's so many tenants that are not on Zoom. And so they're using this COVID as an excuse. So I want to know from your guests, what's the CDC's criteria now at this stage of the game? Are we able to meet in person in terms of NYCHA? Are we able to meet in person, or does it have to remain on Zoom?
Sure. Yes, thank you for that question, Crystal.
Welcome.
We are obviously looking to get past the space where everything we had to separate. We had to be separate from each other. We had to social distance. Nothing could be done in person. We have one of the things, the decision that one of the key criteria that we look at in terms of making that determination is the current rate of new cases. And what we have seen is that this has pretty much stayed, it hasn't increased. There have been some slight decrease. It is definitely not at a point where we are seeing large community spread. We still encourage, so the Department of Health has officially indicated that there is no mandate for anyone to wear a mask indoors, right? So it's up to an organization to make the decision whether or not they want to continue to do this. We also would recommend that whatever space that you are meeting in, that there is a capacity for venting, for obviously it's getting a little bit cooler now, but at least for open windows as able to accommodate, just to be able to at least allow individuals to have a space of a little bit, for their stress levels, for their comfort levels, but also to decrease any potential spread. We are still seeing people are still getting sick with COVID. I don't think we should just make the perception that everyone is feeling fine and nothing is happening anymore. There's still community spread. There's still a need, if you are demonstrating some amount of symptoms, that you isolate yourself, that you cover your mask. At some instances, in some spaces, I still wear a mask, but I'm meeting in person. So my recommendation, and obviously I cannot tell the agency NYCHA what to do, nor can we make a determination about whether folks can now start having meetings in person. But the recommendation is that indoor meetings can occur with limited capacity. So even if there is some sort of a hybrid that may be done, some people are meeting in person, some people may be doing it in a virtual manner. But there is, or if you do want to meet and wear a mask inside, that is also an option that can be done. But the community spread right now is much less than it was before, and we obviously will keeping an eye on the number of the COVID cases per week. But at this point in time, in-person meetings can occur with appropriate precaution.
Crystal, does that answer your question?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. That's because that's what I've heard too, that it's up to the organization. But sometimes the leaders, they have too much power. And so, in NYCHA, things are still evolving. There's still so much going on. So resident organizations have to make an effort to get the information to the residents, because that's the body that governs the tenants. And so you can't use it as an excuse, COVID and all this kind of thing here. There's a way, there's a will, there's always a way. But thank you, sir.
And thank you for your question. All right. Any other questions? Any last questions for Mr. John? Okay, so I want to just thank you, Mr. John, for a very informative update this month. So we're gonna keep it moving. We got a lot to do. Thank you again for joining us. We're gonna move on to our updates from East Harlem COAD.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, good evening. My name is Carol Johnson. I am the disaster liaison for the East Harlem COAD, Community Organizations Active in Disasters. Thank you again for this opportunity. The East Harlem COAD is to prepare our communities for emergencies, disasters, whether it's a pandemic, which we're still in, blackouts, storms, extreme heat, or things that merely interrupt your daily course of actions. And so what we focus on is resilience, how to recover from emergencies, how to mitigate, how to lessen the severity of the emergency, how to prepare, and how to train people. We just try to help people to understand we don't come to scare you, we come to prepare you, but we are in the midst of a major emergency still, as Mr. Padmore just said. People are still dying, people are still going into hospitals. And the help that you need really comes from your home. We don't come to scare you, we come to prepare you. You may end up on your own, and the best way you can help yourself is to know what to do in order to be prepared for what comes your way. Oftentimes we want to call the first responders. You are your first responder. There are only 90,000 first responders in the city. If the city is hit by a major catastrophe, a storm, even a snowstorm, where trees are down, it's impossible for EMT and emergency vehicles to get out, you're gonna have to be on your own. And so we try to help people to understand that there's methods that we use. There may be times when you may have to leave your home in the middle of the night, and the worst thing to do is have to go to a shelter and you can't even identify yourself. So we teach people how to prepare a go bag with essential items, clothing, IDs, copies, always copies of your ID, copies of your medical information, copies of the medications that you take, a copy of your keys, small increments of money, roll the clothes up real tightly, put them in a bag. Hopefully you have a waterproof bag and put your items in there. If you can separate them according to the things that you need in Ziploc bags, that would even be better. All the ID, all the stuff that I mentioned, just the front copy of your lease agreement. If you pay insurance, just put copies, all of that stuff in one bag. Your clothing, roll it up real tight. Ladies, we wear leggings and stuff like that. Roll it up real tight, get some rubber bands, tighten that stuff up, put it in their underwear. If you have medication, we know oftentimes people cannot get medication ahead of time, but there is that printout on the outside of your bag when you refill your medications. You can put that in the bag. A hard copy of phone numbers. Often we depend on memory when it comes to phone numbers, and you'd be surprised how quickly you'll remember a number that you call every day when you're in a major emergency. Put that in there. You want to put something, a book, something to keep you busy, a game board. Try to work on getting emergency power. I was just in an emergency where we had electrical shutdown here, and I was trying to get in on all these different ways and couldn't get through. But I had a backup battery charger. Put that in the bag. First aid kits, little bit of snacks, some water, some peanuts. Watch out for the salt and the sugar if you have a problem with your sugar and high blood pressure. Put some snacks in there, a little collapsible bowl. Because if you have to leave in the middle of the night, if emergency responders knock on your door 2 o'clock in the morning and say, listen, there's a gas leak in your building, you have to evacuate, what are you going to go with? You need to be able to identify yourself. You need to be able to let them know that you live in that apartment. Put that stuff in a bag, put it close to your door, so if they ask you to leave, you can grab that bag and you can go. No one's going to give you time to run and get your keys, run and get your bag, and run and get this. Their responsibility is first to themselves, to get back home safely, then to get you out safely. And so we encourage people to do that. And in closing, we have a yearly go bag giveaway where we give away some of the some of the items I talked about in terms of, toiletries. I'm sorry. Make sure you have the little mini toiletries. We give away a starter go bag, but it's your responsibility to personalize it. As I said, when we went into the shutdown in the summer, people were running out. A lot of people got sick. A lot of people lost their lives because they were forced to go out. They didn't have their aides coming anymore. They were forced to go out, get food, get medication. But what we're trying to train people to know is that you learn how to shelter in place. When you go shopping, get some extra water, some extra non-perishable food. Put it in a bin somewhere, down in a closet. Don't touch it. Tuna fish, salmon, peanut butter, crackers, things that you can eat that you don't have to cook in the event there's a blackout. You can't be roaming up and down the stairs trying to go to the store to get food. And so we try to encourage people to do these things, slowly build the process of recovery. The worst thing to see is when you go into a service center during an emergency and people can't identify themselves. They need their medication, but you can't prove that you take the medication. And so in the near future, we're also going to be teaching Stop the Bleed, which is a technique that was discovered by the doctors, surgeons, the College of Doctors, and they realized that they managed to save 1.2 million lives because most people don't know how to staunch a bleed. We live in a low-income, marginalized area where there's a lot of people here that are suffering from gunshots and stabbings or just falling on a piece of glass. And we learn and teach you how to stop that bleed to hopefully keep that person alive until the EMTs come. And we will be teaching through the fire department non-inhalation, chest compression only CPR. So when we get that information together, we will pass it on to you guys and hopefully you'll post it and hopefully you will show up. Because marginalized areas, this is definitely in closing, marginalized areas are going to be the first hit by disasters. They will be the last to receive resources, and their disasters generally morph from one into another. And so the key is you're on your own. Prepare yourself and your family for what may be coming down the pipe. Not if it comes, but when it comes. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for that update. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Johnson regarding emergency management? There was a lot said just now. Crystal, is that a new hand or is that
I'm sorry for always having something to say. Well, I shouldn't apologize, right?
Don't apologize for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
To your guest, I forget her name.
Carol Johnson.
Yes. How are you, ma'am? I just wanted, good. And thank you for your presentation. It was excellent. I just wanted to say that that word marginalized, and this is not, I'm not critiquing you. I'm just saying that we have a lot of resources in our communities. I thank God for Community Board 11. I may not be a member, but I try to make all of the meetings because that's what keeps me up to date with what's going on. But these words like marginalized and underutilized, all this kind of stuff, we have so many resources, but because we're not connecting with one another, that's why they're not being utilized. So and that's the problem. It's not that we what's the word you used?
That's what keeps us marginalized, because if I live in 1050 Park Avenue and I have 10,000 bottles of water and you live in 1052 Park Avenue, the next building, and I don't know you have water to dispense to the community, we remain marginalized. The COAD is a group of 16 different organizations, along with New York City Emergency Management, the Department of Health. We are now a community emergency network under the Department of Health. We work with the Salvation Army, New York City, VOAD, and different organizations, Harlem Emergency Networks, which do community emergency communications. And so we work together because we know what you said is absolutely 100% true. You need a community effort, but if we're trying to do something and we're the ones only group in East Harlem that actually do what we do, and we're trying to pull you on board, we also have medical centers. And so if we're trying to pull you on board and you're over there doing your own thing and somebody else is over there doing their own thing, we remain marginalized.
Could you put your information in the chat, please? Or
Ms. Glover,
maybe-
you know me.
Yeah, your voice sounds mad familiar.
You came to our mental health
Carol?
facility. Yes, Carol.
Oh, hi, Carol.
Okay, let's not go personal now.
No, y'all good. Okay, we go. I think we have another hit. So, Miss Johnson, drop your information in the chat so Miss Glover can get can sidebar with you. But we have another hand raised from
Okay, thank you.
from Vivian. No, of course, and I'm glad that y'all just acknowledge each other to reconnect because I think what both of you said are very, very important. Miss Vivian, and forgive me if I'm using the wrong pronouns for anyone. Please correct me. I apologize.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm the site director at Central Harlem Beatrice Lewis Senior Center, and I love coming to this community board meeting to get all this information to provide to our seniors. And what I would like to know is, Ms. Johnson, like, would you come out to our site? Do you guys offer that type of outreach to come out to senior centers to provide that information to have a presentation?
Yes, we do. However, we're a small team. We just had an emergency preparation, a yearly one after the 2-year hiatus, where we actually give out starter kit go bags and teach them about everything that I said, and the community refuses to come out. We had a place that held 600 people. We posted it all over the place, and we had about 40 people, and this happens over and over again. So we're such a small team, we have to bring people to us, as opposed to we would wear ourselves out if we ran all over the place. But we do have our information. I will post our website, and you can actually join our meeting. We have Carter Burden as part of our network as well. The Lenox Hill House Senior Center is a part of our network. So I can post the information. You can come to our meetings. We meet the third Thursday of every month, and then we can maybe work something out.
Okay, I'll let the seniors know because I'm not comfortable yet, as of yet, to come out personally because I do have.
No, virtual. We're still virtual.
Okay, good. Okay, that sounds
Yes,
good.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you so much for that information.
Absolutely. But my key, basically, I do most of my trainings specifically for seniors and handicapped people because I am a senior who is handicapped. So those are the ones I'm really pushing for because those are the people that we are the people that are not going to be checked on unless we're doing it on each other.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do we have any last questions for Ms. Johnson before we transition into our business? Carol, I just want to thank you for being present. I love you so much. I appreciate you being here and giving us all of that information. And I thank you for really putting it in a real, like, everyday, day-to-day situation, because I could see myself going through some of what you said and needing, to be prepared in some of those ways. Or my mother, just thinking about her when she lives by herself, some of that information I can take to her. So I appreciate you on that. I'm going to ensure that I get all of the relevant updates from you to present to the church when I give church updates, because I think this is also a place where you can sort of get that information out to people. And I hear you on the not being able to get people in the space, and where, I want to work with you all, on behalf of Community Board 11 to help get more people in the room for these emergency management updates, because it is very important. So thank you first for coming here, because this is perfect.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. Okay, so I'm going to transition us now into our review of budget requests. So we're about to go back into what we started last week. I want to, Marlene, are you okay with sharing your screen and writing, or should I share my screen and you write? Or how do you do it?
Yeah, I could share the screen. I would have to be the one sharing the screen to put it real time, so.
Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at, yes, when you are ready, you can put the budget tracker up and you can get started.
No problem.
So what I'm hoping we will do first is we will make the suggested changes that we what we spoke about last month during our September meeting. That will also include a review for rearticulations of what's already there. So what I'm saying is we'll go through the first time. If there was stuff we wanted to remove, we'll note that it's a removal, or at least that we would like to remove it. And some of these one of them we wanted to consolidate with another, so we'll mark that. I don't know if we need to actually do anything on this, but we want to make an intentional note that those two should be combined. And I want to ensure that we're good with what's there. And then I had 3 new ones that I wanted to introduce to the committee, and I am hoping that other board members have some thoughts and ideas on how we can use this opportunity to address, get some funding for some of the community issues that we that fall under our purview as the Human Services Committee. So this is one point of activism for us, one place for us to make some change in what we request from the mayor's office. So I'm hoping that we'll get some feedback from everybody on this. I'm going to minimize a few windows, Marlene, so I won't be able to see if your hands raised.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I won't see if people raise their hand because I just closed one of my windows so that I can see what's going on.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I mean, we don't have a double screen, so I just ask for patience during this process because I'm on one screen. So if you raise your hand, just like give there will be like a few seconds delay before you're recognized. So just have patience, please.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready.
So I'm going to turn my head this way because this is where my screen is at. So I am with you all. So I want to let's go through first some of what we already said we wanted to do. We said we wanted to remove certain things. Let's just look back through what we did last month. That's it.
Are you going item by item, or are you how do you want to tackle this?
I want to just look at the column that states what we recommended for, because I think that that would probably be the best way, because the ones that say keep, we know we're not doing anything with them for the moment, and then we'll go back to them to see if we want to rearticulate them. But there were some there were 1 or 2 that I believe we wanted to remove. And then there were 2 we wanted to combine because they appeared to be duplicates. So
right, so it's under staff recommendation, so. Okay, so keep, remove was this item. So you said you just want to discuss the ones on the floor right now that say remove?
Yes, to just ensure that that's what we are still in.
Okay.
Is that still what the committee suggests? Now we're actually making that decision. So just wanted to ensure that that's what we want to do. So this, I'll read the request again. This is on row.
Is it big enough or?
We have two. I see a removal on row 7 and one on row 13. Correct.
That's fine. Do you want to just touch row 13?
Well, should we touch row 7 first?
So you want to go back up?
Yeah, row 7. That's the first removal, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. So committee members, please unmute yourself. We're not gonna like actually raise your hand and jump in. Please jump in here. So at our last meeting, I'll read this really quickly. We stated, just running through this, we said that this could be one that we remove. And I want to just run this by us again to ensure that that's what we want to do. Marlene, would you actually, could you explain to the committee briefly what you explained to me about a removal, not actually being a removal, but what that means if we say we want to remove something?
Right, so a removal, you would remove the budget request. The only way that the removal would mean that you're going to keep it is if, you know, the response from the agency says that you should speak to your local elected officials. Then that wouldn't be removed from the grid. You would just, what the staff's suggestion is that you would just compile, so each committee will compile those responses and then forward that to the appropriate corresponding local elected official. So it wouldn't really come off the grid. But if you all choose to remove something that does not fall within that purview of the agency's response was to go to an elected official, and you decide tonight to tell the District Needs and Budget Committee that meets on the 13th of this month to remove this, the District Needs and Budget Committee will remove this item.
Does that make sense to everybody?
So it's two separate things, Pastor Scott. One is a
Yes.
removal for the elected officials, which is not really going to come off. It's just going to go to the elected officials office. And then the other one is, yes, we've decided as a committee, you all have decided as a committee that, you know, we don't need to keep this as a request and for such and such reason. And then the District Needs and Budget Committee would weigh in on that to see if it should be removed or kept.
Okay. So I'm going to just read us back off of this. The request was promote vaccinations and immunizations. Funding for health outreach effort is needed. Repeated booster shots would be required to address COVID disease in a way similar to the flu, since neighborhoods of color, including East Harlem, continue to have lower vaccination rates. Additional funding should be provided to help raise awareness of the benefits of vaccination through outreach efforts. For example, to hire more outreach workers and to advise. And okay. So I'm going to ask Marlene, what was the response here? Is it repeated from this? Just one above it?
Right.
Okay. So OMB supports the agency's position as follows. DOHMH funds a variety of services related to mental health, alcohol, drug abuse, and depression. We will review and assess the request for additional programming, which would be contingent upon available resources. So last week, we said that we could or should remove this. I want to just ask board members if that is still the opinion of the committee.
I agree.
You agree to?
To remove it.
Okay. Could you say why we should remove? Why you think we should?
Because I think it's like beating a dead horse.
Okay.
Not fruitful.
Okay. Any other thoughts, perspective on this? I don't want to take us into deep conversations on what we probably already talked about. No, we already talked about, but just wanted to offer some more context into the space. Thank you, Robin, for participating. Any other board members, thoughts, feedback? I can't see folks, so it would be good if y'all react with either an expression, a raised hand, unmuting yourselves, or whatever. Okay, so Marlene, that will remain as standing to remove.
All I did for this one was so under committee, because the staff also recommended to remove this. So
Yes.
under committee recommendation, I just ticked off remove for you all. It doesn't seem like you have any revision for this. If you decide as a committee not to rank it, that's fine, because you want to remove it anyway, so it doesn't make sense to rank it.
Okay.
I had one quick thing. Sorry, this is Jen.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if thinking about other vaccinations besides COVID, if that would like warrant keeping it. So we just heard about polio and monkeypox. So I don't know. It's like, it's just like, it's like, oh, why are we going this way? We're like, there's so many infectious diseases now. But
so
yeah.
Perhaps, so it sounds like, so Jen, it sounds like you're saying we should probably update this to include some of what Mr. John was just presenting. So not just vaccinations related to COVID, but also to polio and monkeypox.
Yeah, and then probably like, I mean, I guess COVID and the flu, we're always going to be advocating for those in addition to monkeypox, polio, and like whatever else, like who knows, unfortunately, hopefully this is it. But I feel like you never know what's going to happen in the next year.
Thank you for that, Jen. I agree with that. Marlene, can we work an update into this and change the
So you're
status of
not,
it?
so
Or
let
will
me
we-
understand something. So
Yeah.
are you going to put it in, right? So your revision, I'm just gonna paste this in here. So Jen, you're going to revise it. Is that what you're saying? That you want to revise it?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So you're saying you want to revise it. So you could do the revision on the floor. That's fine.
Can we do that now?
Yes.
Okay. So come on, Jen, we're gonna work this language out with the help of everyone else. So funding for a health outreach effort is needed. Repeated booster shots would be required to address, can we update this to COVID, polio, and monkeypox? Maybe we can take away the rest of the sentence and end it with a period. And then since neighborhoods of color, including East Harlem, and end with the same fact, but just on the first sentence include the other infectious diseases.
Okay, COVID, polio, and monkeypox.
Yes.
And then you want this, where do you want gone?
Yes, from yes, to the end of the sentence and rest.
Okay.
Yeah, and keep
That's
the
it?
sense. Yeah, let's look at that and then talk. But you know what? Okay, so Jen, this is a question to you and to everybody. Since we were ready to remove it because it just spoke about COVID, do we want to still include COVID in this revision? Do we just want it to address polio and monkeypox, or do we want to keep COVID in just as a precaution? Yes, please, April. Please don't raise your hand. Please unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Okay,
So I think it depends on what the ask is and what we're, because I think vaccinations are critical and extremely important. So the flu shot, updated COVID boosters, most adults, most people are fully vaccinated against polio. So we're not as concerned with updating boosters for polio. Most people aren't going to be eligible. But I think if you're talking about access and availability and awareness, that's something very different than just health information. So if it were me, I think I would just reframe it more as, better public health campaigning about what vaccines are available and important, and ensuring that we have access to those in our community in appropriate languages for people.
Okay, would you hate me if I asked you to repeat that? Because I think that sort of language is how we can better, I heard you say better campaigning around what vaccinations are available. So that, yes.
If I may,
Yes,
Isaac,
yes, please,
okay,
you
so
may.
April, I see that you're in the document.
I am.
Okay, so what you can do is
Mhm.
just go here, right? Just enter and then type it in red or something, right?
Sure.
Or Isaac, if you would like, April doesn't have to, we would like everything to be done on the floor, because what happens is that these committee meetings end, and then what committee members promise to, it doesn't happen, and then the language and the wording for the request does not get to the district needs committee.
Yeah.
And so what you may have had in mind today during the meeting, it doesn't go forth to OMB. So that's why, we encourage to do this before the meeting. So you come to the meeting with the request in hand, or you do it on the floor. Isaac, it's up to you if you are okay with April giving this language in by Friday. That's completely up to you.
April, are we able to flush some of this out now, or do you need until?
I mean, it depends. So I'm happy to do either way. My preference would be to draft something, and I'm happy with a quick turnaround. I can even do it by Wednesday, just so that people can review it. That would be my preference, just so we can get through things, but whatever's preferred by everyone else.
Okay, so let me know, Isaac, before I start color coding this and saying April will revise.
I think considering that we were about to erase this one completely, I'm totally for April revising this by Wednesday and us having some time. And yeah, to just add language to it. But I think that's a great idea. And then we can move on to the next one. I thank you very much for what you said, Marlene. We don't want to do this for every request and say, hey, we're going to get back to it. We do want to do a lot of this on the floor, but I think there are some circumstances where we can do just this right here. So I just wanted to just say that, so we don't try to do that with everyone.
Okay, all right, so this is what I'm going to do, so you guys are not confused there. So April will revise. Just to move you all along, because you guys did go over this line by line last month. So
yes, yeah.
Just trying to help you. Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Marlene. I'm trying to do the same thing and not put it through the same exact thing. But it's okay. So the next one on the removal list.
It's number 13, you said.
Yeah, it is. No, that doesn't say.
Let me see something. Remove, the staff recommended to remove this. It is a duplicate.
The staff recommended to, okay, yes.
It's a duplicate.
So yes, are we still, yes, enhance, so the item is enhance home care services, provide funding to hire more Spanish speaking home care workers are needed in the community. And this was a duplicate because it was mentioned in another. So are we okay to continue on and remove this one? Any objections to remove it? Is what I would say. We move on. Yeah, we want to remove it.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the next one. There were no more, yes.
Yeah, there were no more removals. Okay, so here's what you all can do as a committee tonight, since there are no more removals and you already went over this last month as a committee, which is a good thing. So,
Actually, I'm sorry to say that I'm going to suggest 2 removals,
okay.
and I'll explain why.
Which one?
Both of, I can tell you the numbers.
Okay,
It's ending in 23290.
hold on. Let me find it before you move on, please.
Sure.
It's number 9.
Thank you.
And 2309E.
Okay, so as a committee, Isaac, just discuss
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
one by
let's talk about let's talk about these one by one. So
Sure.
I have you on row 9 here, enhance. The request is enhance home care services, and the reason, provide funding for expanded in-home services for the elderly, including expanding hours of home care provided to ensure fewer rehospitalizations. And this was a request made to DIFTA, the Department of Aging, and the response was further study by agency of this request is needed. Therefore, OMB does not take any position. Talk to us, Robin.
The reason I'm suggesting remove it is because ISEP is a state-funded program. It is not a city-funded program. So asking the city to provide funds when it's not their program is, to me, a waste of time. And their response is not specific. I think they're just tossing back a response without saying it's not our domain. So I don't think we're going to get any further. We've been asking for money for ISEP for years, and I just think it's futile.
Okay. Is this okay? Okay. Any other thoughts on this particular item? Okay. Xavier, you're on the call. Any thoughts on this? Calling you out.
Hi, hold on just a second. Sorry, I'm trying to get the kids through dinner and it's struggling at best. So if we could go back, so like Robin was recommending to combine the ones ending in 290 and 090, correct?
No,
Well, she
I'm
was
suggesting
actually
we remove them.
Totally.
Okay, could you go back to the, could you pan to the left so I can see the request right there? George, hold on a second. Sorry.
So I can read it if it's easier, big bro.
No, just pan to the right just a little bit so I can read the OMB response. Okay. I mean, so if the staff is, Georgie, hold on. So if the staff is recommending to revise, I would refer this up to Statement of District Needs and Budget for further review, because they're recommending that we revise it. Oftentimes when the budget process, so the city functions a way, hold on, let me just leave the space I'm in real quick. The city tends to function in a way where its auto response is no. And oftentimes as it goes through the process, they'll highlight an item to say, okay, they may partially agree or they may not, but they want to push it off for a little while. It's one of the many layers of bureaucracy we deal with. And Robin, to your point, I get that it is that particular portion is a state funded, but I don't know if I think when they're looking at it to review it further, and I'm hypothesizing here, is that they may be searching for a way that they could plug in some kind of financial contribution. But again, it's a punt as it comes from the city budgeting process.
Honestly, Xavier, we've been asking the same question.
I know.
For more than 5 years, and we never get any further than the response you're seeing.
And duly noted, sorry to interrupt, but it took us over 7 years to get a stop sign put in the neighborhood. That was much needed. So I think that is, and I agree with you that it's been there for a while and there's been consistent pushback. I would say though that the reality is when it takes even longer just to get a stop sign from DOT, which when you think about it from a budget process is breaking concrete and putting a post in and a sign on, that took forever, and it was up towards, was it near the Madison Avenue Bridge? I'm trying to remember. But anyway, so again, this committee can make that decision. And I think we can, if the staff is saying to revise, but and they're recommending to combine the two, we could try that attempt one last time for this year. And if it doesn't pass muster, then have we lost anything is the question I posit to the committee.
I want to pull Art into this conversation. Come on, Art, please unmute yourself and see your hand is up.
Hi, thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Scott. Yeah, I agree with Robin. I think we just need to move on. I mean, state funded, let's focus on things that can make a difference. Obviously, I mean, the city is just going to give the same response. Does not take any position, on and on and on. I mean, what's the point? I mean, I think we just need to really focus on things where we could really make a difference and not keep hammering on. And I think it also questions our credibility when we keep asking for the same thing over and over and over again. And you know, the city says it's irrelevant to them. So what's the point of all this? I mean, I just don't see, honestly, don't see any issue with removing this.
Thank you, Art.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective, Art, very much so. Okay,
Yeah,
so
real quick, Isaac, if I may, just again, this committee can make the choice they desire to make. And I'll be supportive of it. There's not an issue on that. I'm just wanting everyone to really be cognizant of the fact of the way the budgetary process works. And it's not just what the decisions that are made here and in the next stage at the budget committee and then executive and full board. It's what we do throughout the year once we made those requests. And it's important that we keep chasing from the moment they're submitted, following up with our council members, following up and being at the hearings, following up with district consultations and opining on it in every stage. That's just very important. I just want to remind the committee that that is the part that oftentimes many community boards, unless they are so incensed and or inspired, fail to do. And I just, so if this committee says they're going to remove it, we will respect every stage, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. So again, I just want to remind everyone in the committee that after we make this decision to pursue whether to add or remove or revise, that once we've made that decision, it's approved by the full body, that we then move forward by advocating for those budgetary requests.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you, Art. Thank you, Rob, and I appreciate you all. I went ahead and marked that on there as a removal, just based on, I think what Art said resonated the most, in that it does say a lot about us to, and I hear you, Xavier, like, you know, just because it's like a grant. So just because you don't get it on the first try doesn't mean you give up on it, you know. But I hear Robin saying this has been like 5 years, and I hear Art saying it says a lot when we're chasing the same things instead of focusing on ways where we can have impact. So I'm going to just go ahead and, just for the sake of the committee, just mark this as a removal for us, and it can go through the necessary processes. So Robin, what was the second one? And thank you all for entertaining that conversation.
Sure. So so you adjusted 2329, is that right?
Yes.
And then the other one was 2309. They were redundant, both about ISEP.
Can someone call out the line number, please?
I think it's number 4, 2309. Yes. Is that it, Robin? 2309?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay. Yes, that is. I'm going to highlight it, Martin, really briefly.
And I suggest we remove it for the same reason.
For the same reason. I'm going to read it on the record. This is enhanced home care services. Funding is needed to expand home care services for low-income seniors. Specifically, the expanded in-home services for elderly programs, ISEP, which historically has a waiting list due to being underfunded. The response from OMB was a further study by the agency of this request is needed. Therefore, OMB does not take any position, which is similar to what we just saw. So your reasons are for the same thing. Any other feedback on this? Or do we have the same positions, everyone? Call back in Art and Xavier and invite anybody else in who has any thoughts here.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Not to be in opposition, I'm also happy either way. But just to make sure I understand the process, because this is new, by removing this, or I guess if we were to keep it, it's not in competition of the other things that we value. So we're only suggesting to remove it because we think we won't get it, but we still think it's important. Because I guess what I don't want to happen is we don't make an ask of something that's possible if we think it's important. To not ask just because we haven't gotten it before. But I guess I'm not sure if it's in competition with other priorities or if it's just we've been told no before, if that makes sense.
I think specifically when we had a representative from DIFTA come speak to us, these are the kind of items that he totally overlooked because they're not city originated. So they have little to no control. In fact, the DIFTA budget has not seen an increase in almost 2 decades. So when you understand that, you understand that you have to really focus on the things where you really think they will make an impact, where you hope they will make an impact. And ISEP home care is just one form of home care. There are more important things that are not necessarily budget related. My colleague Joseph, I'm sure, is listening to this, such as advocating for another state bill, which is fair pay for home care, which would get more home care workers into the system versus talking about one form of home care that the city doesn't fund. Mm-hmm. So I think that there are other avenues that we should be pursuing. And one is coming up shortly, which has another number. It has to do with supporting the Asian population in our community. When we get to that, I think we have a better chance of getting some attention for that. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
so you know, thank you for that question, Asa, because I'm also sort of right there in the middle of that. And I feel like if there's no limit to how many requests we can make, we should just make them. But at some point we will have to prioritize the requests that we are making. And I wonder if we are using our time and mental capacity in the best ways if we continue to, so I'm totally with the community's perspective on this. I'm just facilitating the meeting, but I really am actually listening to you all, and we're going to make these decisions together. So thank you very much for raising that concern. I think it was very important. It was actually how I was feeling, and I appreciate you for saying it. Any thoughts in opposition to removing this one for the same reasons we suggested to remove the last one? Any comments in opposition to? Robin, I wonder if with respects to, man, forgive my ignorance in this area, but with respects to what we actually wanted from DIFTA, is there a different program we can advocate for, or a different way we can sort of try to attack this need? Maybe it's not the ISEP program, maybe it's a different program than the state.
I've been responding to you muted Sorry.
That's good.
But, you know, I think ISIP is beating a dead horse. I've been on this committee for 11 years. I put these questions up probably about 10 years ago. And I personally am offended that I see these kind of responses from DIF, which is a signal to me that it makes no sense to them. And so I don't see the point in continuing to ask for support for ISIP. As I said, it's a state-funded program. The one where I think we have a better chance, and I don't know what number it is on your line, is 2347.
Okay, so
Which-
before we go there, before we
Sorry.
go, before we go to that one,
Okay,
are there any,
Where-
I just want to make sure that we are
Sure.
okay with removing this one. So you're saying, what you were about to say is that the one that you are suggesting may be a better way that we can address sort of the concern here? Okay, great. Yes, let's hear that, actually. I'm sorry. You're muted again.
Thank you. Technology. Seniors. I live it. Item number 2347. I don't know where it is on your list.
It's number 16.
Number 16, okay. And it starts out by saying other senior center program requests, but I think it should be worded differently. I think it should be programming staff support for Asian older adults in East Harlem. We're talking specifically about Asian older adults. It's a burgeoning population. And I don't believe that the senior-centric services offered in East Harlem are yet supporting that population appropriately in terms of staffing.
So,
So
okay.
I'm suggesting a title change to the request is enhance programming staff support for Asian older adults.
And that's for 2347.
2347. Mhm.
So so before we touch on that one, let's go back to 2309. And I think at this point,
Sorry.
I think it's fair to say, if no one has any objections, that we can remove this request in order to do our best to re-articulate the other request that was just mentioned. Is that okay with everyone? Thank you. So remember, I'm only responding to those folks I can see and get a reaction from. Just wanted to let you know that. So okay. So I'm gonna, Marlene, I just marked cell 4K with the removal, and I'm gonna unhighlight.
I got it.
those
I'm
ones.
trying to see what makes more sense,
Yes.
Pastor Scott, because you seem like you got the flow of this thing. So I'm going to, are you fine with me stopping to share? You seem like you have it, right? You're putting in the removals.
Do you want me to stop sharing?
No, I'm the one sharing now.
But do you want me to share?
You seem like you have the hang of it. Because I wanted because they're looking at my screen right now.
Yeah.
And I'm the one moving the screen back and forth, right? So
yeah.
Yes.
I'm okay with you continuing. If you want your screen back because you only have one screen, then
No, it's fine.
Okay. No, I'm cool.
I don't have to do this. You seem like you have the hang of it. But if you want me to keep sharing, that's okay. You just gotta let me know when you move because you're saying one thing and I'm on another piece.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So I am now highlighted I'm on row 4 now, and I have marked row 4, column K, which is the committee's recommendation as a removal. And that is because we are getting ready to re-articulate key number 2347. So row 4, I'm going to unhighlight here because it's not marked as so going down now. I'm going down. Yes, to row 16. Okay, so could we, Robin, are you on this document or would you like to just express you want to submit the change? You're muted again.
I can see it, but I don't have access to it, and that's fine with me.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't want to overwhelm you with this text.
I
Okay, so
Yeah.
the rearticulation you
But
stated that
maybe
was,
you should
yeah,
hear me out first before you touch it.
yes.
Maybe you should, and I noticed that somebody has asked in the chat, what is the population? What is the Asian population in East Harlem? When this was written 3 years ago, at the time, more than 8% of the older adult population was Asian. And I know, I don't have the number, but I know it's bigger now. And I know that that culturally, it's important to be able to support this population in terms of any senior service organization. And I know that it's important to have English language programming for this population, because otherwise there's not a lot in East Harlem that reaches them in their language. So I think it's important to offer English language skills for Chinese speaking people. So I think both of those things should be in the same ask, that there needs to be case management staff, and there needs to be programming at senior centers specific to this population that is culturally sensitive and culturally appropriate. Beyond celebrating Chinese New Year's. I see Ms. Gonzalez has asked another question. Will they look to East Harlem? You can look at the NORC at Franklin Plaza. Very, very big population there. There is one social worker for the entire complex. I don't believe that is a Chinese speaking social worker. I believe she's bilingual Spanish. I see the residents in my community when we have pantry days. And I know that this is a population that really is somewhat not closeted, but within their own culture. So I would think that in their community, they need to find the support. You're welcome, Ms. Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, Robin, for paying attention to the chat for entertaining questions. So I'm wondering within this reason already, how it sounds like it encompasses what you are already saying. Am I missing something? I'll read it out loud. It says there is a need for more culturally sensitive social support for Asian seniors. More than 8% of East Harlem's population are Asians. Among them, many are seniors with limited means and no English language skills. Funding is needed for the social service providers that support Asian seniors, including funding for bilingual caseworkers, that's 1, in-home caseworkers, 2, and translators, 3, as well as culturally sensitive programming for culturally sensitive meals, 5, English classes, 6, and Tai Chi classes, 7. Did I get that right?
That's got it. Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Is that all of what you were already saying?
Yes, that is what I've been saying.
Okay, so
but the request is not really, the request that's there is not specific enough.
Okay, so can you help me? Could you make a suggestion?
I'd be happy to.
Please.
May I interrupt? I'm so sorry.
Yes.
So Robin, the
Yes.
request comes directly from OMB. That request you all didn't create. So do you remember So last year I gave, and I emailed you all when I sent out this agenda, a reference guide with OMB language as to how they want budget requests to be worded out. And that's where that is coming from. So you can revisit the reference guide right now to see if there's something that's just a little bit more specific to this reason. but the budget request must come from that boilerplate language.
Unfortunately, I can't visit the guide because I don't have access to it.
I'm meaning, when I said visit it, I meant I would put it up on the screen for you all. That's what I
Thank you.
meant, because we're doing everything on the floor right now.
Thank you.
So Isaac, I'll go ahead and do that, okay? Just give me a second, please.
Oh, yes, I was just talking muted. I'm sorry. I was saying, Marlene, while you do that, thank you. While you do that, Xavier, I see your hand is raised, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Real quick, just to give you kind of quick readout. Again, these, I was just want to offer this an aggregator when it comes to our census data that we had. Currently, I'm going to read them. And white was about 13.9%, and there is a margin of error in these numbers. Black was 29.5, Asian was 9.7, other was 0.3, Hispanic was 43, and this is percentiles. We do know, and there was quite the drive for getting this census completed. However, we're at the height of the pandemic, and we did have a lower turnout than we were aiming for. So there's just so everyone has an idea of what that data is. So there will be obviously a margin of error with that but we have to extrapolate from those numbers that it would extend further if we had complete participation.
But you offer good news, Xavier, because our original percentage was 8. Now you're saying it's 9.7. Thank you.
Yes, there is a margin of error of about 10%. So if you took 9.7, it would be, like 8.7 or whatnot, if we're going to be pedantic about it, right? So simple math, so not so simple sometimes.
So should we say more than 9% of East Harlem population?
I would say nearly 10%.
So whenever you all are ready,
Yes.
so this is the same exercise we did last year. Just to orient you all in terms of what the request is supposed to be. So you have to stay within the confines of this language for OMB. We don't make up the rules. We just tell you that this is how they should be executed. From the board office, this is what we get, and then we tell you all as a board. So you have to stay within the confines. So Robin,
Yes.
we could read this. I'll just increase this because I know it's kind of small.
Thank you.
Okay, so your request is going towards, I don't have your budget request committed to memory. So that was DFTA?
It's DFTA, and it's supporting a culture and language with,
Okay.
with programming and staff.
Okay, so let's scroll to DFTA. So this is Health and Human Services, needs for older New Yorkers, DFTA, right? So and this would be an expense budget request. And so do you see that this is where that came from?
Yes, but it's not just senior center. It's not just for senior centers. It's also for in-home.
Right. So maybe it's just a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to be 2 separate requests, right? And so that means that you all will create a new one on the floor.
Oh, please.
Because it's right. So you all can read this right now to see what the general language is for an expense request pertaining to what your idea is, Robin. So you could do that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, we can do that. I see what you're saying, Marlene. One falls under senior center programs, and then the other one would fall under what? Services for homebound adults.
Mhm.
Increased case management capacity. It would be if it's for homebound.
Yeah, so we should, so that portion of the, yes, so, okay, with that, because with that, I want to, if we're going to go into creating a new one now, I want to stay in the spirit of doing new ones. So are there any, was there anything else we wanted to do here, Marlene? We've already gone through the removals. We've already went through last week the other ones we said we wanted to keep as they were. Does this
I
take
don't
us
know.
into?
I'm sorry, Pastor
Yeah.
Scott. I would have to bring up the request again. I
Oh
don't
yeah, because you don't have.
have it. You're one of the committees that I liaise for. So
Yes.
let me stop sharing.
I'll pull that up on my side, so I can find this one.
So you're asking if there are any more removals that you would like to speak about as a committee?
Yeah, was there any, because I think we got through the removals. Was there anything else with this budget that we needed to talk about before we got to the new ones? Because that's not the only new one we will be doing. So I don't want to do this new one and go back to something and then go back to new ones. If we're sort of going into creating a new one, we can just stay in that flow.
Yeah, so no, to answer your question directly. However, you're going to remove this one or revise it and then add a new one.
Okay, so we'll be revising this and
Okay,
adding a new one. Yeah, because if we
And I have
remove
a
it, then we'll have to.
suggestion. I saw a
Yeah.
line that I think is appropriate. It had to do with adding to senior center staff.
mhm.
It's staffing that would provide case management or social services. It's staffing that would provide programming and
So is that-
translation.
So Robin, that's still under services for homebound older adults?
No, I think if it's under senior centers, then I would be happy with just that, providing staff, additional staffing.
Okay, for senior, okay, I see. So
Mhm.
yes, so what exactly are you saying? To revise this to be one?
I'm just revising the request. We're just revising the request. It's not just generic other senior center program requests. It is to add staff to address these needs.
Right, so you said you saw that in the reference guide, Robin?
I did.
Okay,
did.
wonderful.
I did.
Because if you didn't see it, then you would just.
No,
add
I'm not making it
remove
up.
It's fine. So if
I
you
have-
saw that
yeah.
in the request,
I
that's
did.
completely fine. So you're saying you would like to revise it, meaning you would
Mhm.
revise the request. That's the revision.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Sorry to take everybody's time with this.
No, this is the process.
I think my internet is spotty right now. Okay, so you all are agreeing to revise this,
Yes,
and then you're recommending to, it's almost 8 o'clock. I'm sorry, I'm not that articulate right now. You're recommending to revise the request. That's what's the recommendation is.
Correct.
To
Yes.
pull that, I would have to go back to the reference guide. Or Isaac, what you can do is, so I don't have to keep switching screens.
I have
If
it up.
you can go to the reference guide and pull it, please, and just
Yes.
put it in here.
Okay, so that point that you mentioned, Robin, was let's see, provide additional senior center staffing.
Yes, thank you, Isaac.
So that is under the needs category of senior center programs.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Is that what you needed, Marlene?
Yes.
And if you could also augment the detail of this request to reflect nearly 10% of the population, not just 8%.
I'm just going to paste that category. Okay. Could you, are you waiting for me to edit in that box, Marlene? If so, could you come out of it? Is that what you wanted me to drop in there?
I'm sorry, Isaac.
I'm asking Marlene, is this what she wanted me to add to the committee recommendation for revision?
Right, it's what Robin saw. I don't have it committed to memory. So,
Okay, so-
and I'm sharing the screen. So I would
No,
have to, okay, let me stop sharing again.
No, I got it. No, I got it.
Okay.
I'm just copying and pasting from where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
So I just added the language in from the guide.
Yes, so senior center, well, the senior center programs is the need.
Is the need, yes.
So you
And,
don't have to put
it
that
is-
in, like you
yeah,
could remove that, senior center programs.
yeah. Alright.
And then provide additional senior center staffing. So, and Robin, you also wanted to revise the language, the reasoning.
I just want to change one number in the reasoning.
Okay, so.
Instead of saying more than 8% of East Harlem's population, I would say nearly 10% of East Harlem's population.
I think I
Okay.
made that change already in there.
That'll do it. Thank you for your patience.
Okay. Hold on. Yeah, no. Don't change this existing reason. So you would grab that sentence, Pastor Scott.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so go back and put what originally was there from,
There's 8% there, and then,
It was more than 8% originally.
yes, yep, nearly, yep, more than. Putting it back up. Okay.
okay. So grab the
And-
sentence that Robin wants to revise, that more than 8%, right? So just take that sentence
Mhm.
and then go to the committee recommended revision, and you could put it under here and say that you wanted to say 10%. I'm not in this box, right?
No, I'm, is that it? Is that what you mean?
No, literally make it like its own line. The nearly 10%, because
I don't know how to do that in the cell. Like you can't hit enter and it goes to the next line.
Oh, just put Alt and Enter.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have Alt on the Mac. How do we do this?
Okay, no problem. It's okay.
I'm sorry. It's like shifting into sometimes, but that don't work.
Oh, yeah, I'm a PC person.
See,
so-
I just thought that didn't work.
Okay, so let's do this.
How do you do that?
Wow.
Yeah, see?
So provide, I just need to be able to clearly say this to the office. So nearly 10%. Okay, I'll explain that that's what that is. Okay. Then that's the suggested revision.
And we can, and if it's helps, that nearly 10% really was 9.7 in case that is a question. Like, what do you mean? Is
What,
that
I'm
9.7?
sorry, what did you say?
I said that 10% was 9.7 in case that's a question that comes up.
Nearly, oh, okay, you just
Yeah,
rounded.
yeah, we're saying, yeah, we're around.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
So
we,
you kept
yes.
this, right? So I'm gonna move the screen. So this is just a new thing because there are, each community board is allowed to do this budget process for new members on this committee. Give, as a board, you can give 40 capital expense budget requests, capital budget requests, and on up to 25 expense requests, right? And how you do that is you prioritize the request because each committee is doing this work throughout the month, right? So you can rank this as a committee and you would have to go back and do it to the other ones, but you all wanted to focus on the removals right now. And just rank the priority. So do you want this to be high? And I just want to be clear for the record, that doesn't mean it's going to be high priority when it gets to district needs. You're just helping district needs understand the work of this committee, like, you know, this is very important to them. So let's try to rank this properly. It's just something new that, you know, the staff put in this year to try to help you all.
And I know it may be a little difficult to rank these needs because they're all very important. So don't look at it like we think this is more important than not. But I think the ranking may help with sifting through all of these requests. So I think at this point, Marlene, that this particular one is complete. We can start this one as far as ranking and work our way back to the top, and then we can do those new ones. Yeah.
Okay.
And if I know, like, please don't be like me. I'm inclined to say all of these are high priority because we really actually like rank these kind of in a real way. I know it's hard. And it may even make sense that we do the new ones first, Marlene. Should we do that before we rank? So
no problem.
We got a sense. Yep. Okay. So really quickly, I won't take much time with this. Let's go down to row 17. So I created some, I partially drafted some new requests based on what I've been hearing. And forgive me, I'm not that, quick in putting these together, but what I've been trying to do is sort of piece together what we are hearing as an issue and take this opportunity to fund programs or initiatives or things we believe will address that issue, right? So hence where my requests come from. I will articulate them to you in the spirit they came from, but I do need you all's help with fine-tuning some of the language in it. That's about it. And then we can go and rank these, and then we can move on with the meeting and get off this call. The first new request I wanted to bring before the committee, the request for other programs to address public health issues request. So this came from the spirit of there's a need to include personnel tasked to escort clients. So specifically, aside from what the language says, because I was just brain dumping, this particular request is saying that there should be, for folks who receive services in East Harlem that don't live in East Harlem, there should be some sort of personnel from the treatment clinic who escorts the people from the site to public transportation to ensure that they're not sort of intercepted by, possible, I don't want to say, drug activity in the area, is what I would say. So for an example, if you're going to the treatment center on 126 in Lexington, it would be good if you had 126 between Lexington Park. It would be good if there was an escort who could take people from the clinic and ensure that they got on the train, walk them to the turnstile or made sure they got on the bus so that we know, because one of the concerns I've heard explicitly is that there are, and this comes out of the fact that there are about 80-something percent of people receiving services in East Harlem that don't live in East Harlem. The reason that was the issue is because folks were concerned that people were getting services and then lingering in the area. So this request comes as a means to be able to escort people who are receiving services that they can't get other places, that they are getting them here, that there be some escort to take them from the facility to their transportation, their mode of transportation. That way we can lessen the amount of folks lingering in the area. Now, I'm gonna be very honest with y'all. The reason I didn't articulate it the way I just said it to y'all is because some of the language doesn't sit right with my spirit, in that we're not saying that we don't want certain people in our community. That's not the idea that I'm trying to portray in this request. The request is more about the vulnerability of the people receiving services to ensure that they're able to make it back to their locations, or at least to their mode of transportation, without being interrupted by drug activity in the area. So that's where my request comes from. I'm open for thoughts and feedback on this. But that was the first request I wanted to bring new. It speaks specifically to what we've been hearing about folks lingering in the community. So thoughts on this one?
Isaac, I was just reading in the chat, Ms. Gonzalez, who's very vocal tonight, and I appreciate her input, that this is asking for monies to help people who are not East Harlem residents. So perhaps you might want to rethink it and have escorts for everybody, not just non-East Harlem residents.
That I said, okay, but I thought about that, but this was specifically addressing the concern of people lingering in East Harlem. So the request is not specific, and it does sound that, so we can flip this on two coins, right? Because two heads, it's not specifically about asking for support for people who don't live in East Harlem as much as it is ensuring that we don't have folks lingering who we actually are saying on the record that we want to get. You know, it's bad enough sort of you have to come all the way up here to get it, but if you're going to, at least don't linger after you do it. And it sounds like, so that's kind of where that came from. But I agree. So I don't know, how do we want to hash this up? Other thoughts, feedback? Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez, for your feedback.
Can I just ask a question?
Please ask a question.
Is this a need that was expressed by the community, or is it something that we've identified as something to be addressed?
Yeah, so I think that's both, because we are hearing it consistently in these meetings. You know, this is the information, you know, even if reading our statement of district needs, this information is in it, that there's an oversaturation of drug programs in East Harlem, and most of the people receiving services in East Harlem are not even from East Harlem. So the issue in that they're not from East Harlem is that it brings people to the community, and people come who would not normally be here, but then they linger. And so that was what this request was sort of addressing, that concern. But yeah, I mean, tell me your thoughts on it. You know, what do you think? Because again, I was just I'm listening to what I'm hearing, and I wanted to suggest some new requests that would possibly address some of what we're hearing.
Yeah, I think it's always a positive thing to be, you know, responsive to what people are saying they're concerned about. I guess my only hesitation or thinking is just around, would the people who would be using the service, is it something they want? Is it something they would actually utilize? Do they see it as a need? Because we don't want to, I mean, I don't think we want to spend a lot of time creating solutions for issues that aren't identified as a need by the people who might, you know, use it.
Yes, I am in total agreement with you on that. How do we balance the concerns we're hearing from community members in regards to, you know, this particular issue? I guess that's the question I'm gonna ask, because I agree with you. So how do we balance this?
I mean, I think my suggestion would be, I would make it just a little bit more broad. So like a community, you know, health worker or a public health, you know, not coordinator, but just someone who's available. And so it's, oh, I can provide, you know, an escort to the train, or I can provide information on hours or accessibility, or, you know, the bus schedule, you know, whatever those things are, but just making it a little bit more broad than, I'm going to make sure you don't linger and you're going to get out of here.
I appreciate
Not that
you,
I'm saying that's what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's what it feels like it's saying, you know, so thank you for saying what you just said. Thank you for saying exactly what you just said, because that's why I was like, this is a rough one to articulate. I'm going to, Xavier, please unmute yourself and chime in here, because you're one of the people in our community who's probably the most vocal about this. So please don't remain silent on this particular request, because this is us trying to use this budget opportunity to address some of the concerns that are continuously articulated. So if you have a moment, I know you're home with the kids, but if you could unmute yourself and weigh in on this particular request, that would be very helpful.
Okay, sorry to make you repeat yourselves. Just tucking them in. Which one? The one that's highlighted in yellow right now?
Yes, sir. Good. Yes, sir.
So this is a new one that's added for this year, correct?
Yes, this is the language in here is not anything but just a brain dump, and April just helped very much to sort of give it some better shaping and for final sort of articulation. But
So
ultimately, yes, I'm sorry.
Go on. Go ahead and finish your thought. Sorry.
Ultimately, it came from the concern of there being folks who are receiving services in East Harlem, so people who are traveling into East Harlem and are lingering after receiving services. This is something that has been explicitly said at community board meetings. So I wanted to, I thought this might be a way that we could target it. So this is what do you think? I'm not sure if you heard what April said.
No, I did not at the time, regrettably. Do you mind repeating that? I'm sorry, April. Just the challenges with the kids.
No, I have the same. That's why my screen is dark, because I'm also doing bedtime. No, I was just, just in general asking, was it an identified need by the people who would be potentially using the service, or was it more in response to concerns, bigger concerns in the community? And just suggesting that we think about, expanding the role or the ask and making it more of like a general like public health advocate. And part of their role could be, whether it was providing information, but also providing, escort services if someone needed, help accessing the bus schedule or walking to the train station. But just expanding it beyond just, making it feel like we're just trying to get people out of the neighborhood.
Well, I think, and thank you for that. I think the challenges are that we have about 12% of all services when it comes to treatments, medical treatments for substance abuse, and 70% of the people using said services are not from these zip codes. Now, I think the question remains is that there has been a challenge because there are those that go after and take advantage of those suffering with substance addiction. And that challenge has had a knock-on effect on our community that is being vocalized now more than ever. And I think since last year, October 2021, when I think it was Senate Bill 2523 was passed, which allowed for open air drug use, and then the opening of the OPC, which was announced I think December 2nd or 4th. Yeah, the 2nd. That has concentrated more individuals drawn more individuals into the community, and they have started shifting either from the 125th, 126th down to where La Marqueta and Placita is. I guess the question I would say, how do we, I guess the better question I would posit is, how do we decentralize so many services in this community? And again, most of those that are in this community are receiving OASIS funding, which is again the state. So I guess if we're asking, how do we, coming from this committee, I think the challenge will be justifying the request to people who are most oftentimes taking public transport here. Is it a public transportation, or like, is it a transportation request to get them to return back to to the homes where they originate? And it's a question I have. So, or these additional services to help guide those clients receiving services or making sure they're being directed safely without becoming what's the word I'm looking for, so that dealers can't get access to them. I guess that's the question I'm coming at, is are we trying to make sure that they get their treatment and they get back to where they came from without being exposed to those elements who want to take advantage of them? Does that make sense?
Yep. It sort of sounds like, so I'm going to take a shot at what I'm hearing here, because what it sounds like, if we make this a little more broader, then I feel like I can combine what we have on row 17 with what we have on row 19. I'm going to highlight that since it's on the screen already, so we can see. It sounds like we can consolidate these and make it more general, as April suggested. And I really, really appreciate everyone's feedback, because when you actually get into the meat and potatoes of what we can actually do to target the issue, it's not as simple as, just, not doing this or not doing that. It really takes us asking these tough questions. Is this what the people receiving the service actually want, or is it just coming from an outside perspective? So balancing that is going to be a tricky thing for us, because we have to keep in mind the impact that this has in the community, in large and directly on the people who's receiving the service. So it's never black and white.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's not. If I could just chime in one more time, Isaac, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yeah, I think the challenge we're facing is the concentration of services in our community. And the fact is that to get to 70% are not from our zip codes, mathematically implies that those clinics based here are a handful of them are actually engaging with clients and breaching, beyond the 50-60% threshold to get us to that average, which means that there are those that they're serving less of our community, which is an ongoing issue. So the question is, how many of those are actually engaging in services? How many are those are just coming here because they know they can get access to the illicit drugs that will help them get their next fix because of the addiction? And who are we looking to service in this case? And I guess it's, how do we bifurcate the issue and say, okay, these people need help making sure they can get in and out. And then and then a separate bucket are those that are coming here because they have access to the drugs that are being sold here illegally. So I think that's, so I guess in the request is to look at it in that kind of lens, as we try to take a multi-pronged approach with healing our community and making sure that those clinics in our community are servicing our community members, or at least the majority of them.
So thank you, Xavier. I'm here re-articulating this particular request to be broad and include some of what's also being said in number 19. Then we can see what this looks like, if it even makes sense. But I do want us to work through this. I think that we should address this issue somewhere in the budget, and we do have to find the right language. And I appreciate the critique on language, and also who is this more of a concern to? Definitely. Okay, so I just put I'm gonna go ahead and erase the whole 19 because I just copied and had it in there. And I'll so it sounds like if we broaden it out, then it's more of a request for personnel that can act as a public advocate or so two things in my head. First, let me go back. The request that I just consolidated this with was a request to expand maybe the independent contractors that came in to offer social services with the city so that there could be more innovative ways to engage people in the matters of what we're talking about, open drug use, possibly escorting, with information about family exposure to drugs and the long-term impact. So more of this public advocate position that would advocate more specifically for the heightened drug awareness around these issues, and with that offering sort of a provision to possibly, you know, if wanted, I guess, some sort of safe passage possibility. I don't know if that made sense. To that.
You know,
Yeah, so
Isaac, I was going to say, I applaud you for coming up with what I think is a very creative way to kindly say, please go home. I mean, right?
I don't think it's saying please go home. So here's where I'm at, right? I'll be honest with you, and I'm glad that you said that. I'll be honest with you. I don't feel the same way a lot of people feel about people coming into East Harlem and getting services. I don't. I am also, so I'm balancing right now between my understanding of the issue, what I'm hearing from the community board members and the public who come onto these meetings as an issue. And in doing so, I'm trying to use this process to address the issues I am hearing. Now, if, you know, I will limit my words on the record to how I personally feel about things, because I think I'm in the role to ensure that we are able to advocate correctly for the community. So there's to some extent that I will allow my personal feelings and perspective to sort of it overflow into this. But right now I'm strictly responding from what I'm hearing, because this community board has an attitude of, we don't want them here. They're bringing more. This is what we're hearing indirectly. Oh, because there's more open drug use, there's more violence. So all of the violence now that we're seeing, although if you read the statement the district needs, yeah, and it comes a lot from gang violence and NYCHA, but it's all being, when we hear it articulated, it's all coming from open drug use. So there's already a bad narrative there, you know. So I said all that because there are a few points that I do agree on. I do agree that there is an oversaturation of programming in East Harlem, right? I also agree that if there is a large amount of people coming into the community to get services and are not exiting as much as they're entering, then they're staying. And staying, that presents some sort of an issue, good, bad, or the other. So if the goal is to ensure that people can come in and get services in East Harlem and then make it home safely, that's where that was coming from. So it wasn't so much like a goal, but it does come across that way. So that was why I was so hesitant in trying to articulate it, because that's what it feels like. We're saying go home. And that's not the energy that we want to give, but it is a precaution of, it sounds like an issue that people in East Harlem are really concerned about, and to ignore it would be irresponsible. So that's where that's coming from, Robin. So I just want to
thank you, because I see your sensitivity, and I was really reacting to the many meetings I've sat through where local residents are really upset about this. So what we're really talking about is safer streets.
That is what we're talking about, safer streets. I think also there's a level of care and concern we have to have for the people receiving services. And I also want to be mindful of how we talk about people receiving services. I never want to use a us and them. I feel like
Absolutely.
we're all the same. We're all together. You know, that could be my mother. It was my mother at one time. Different. You know, so it's never us and them. So I'm trying to be mindful about how we speak about folks receiving services. It's a tough position to be in, you know, because you have to navigate the sensitivity with the reality of some of the issues that these that implementing, you know, so with the decriminalization of drugs came the since drugs is now decriminalized in a lot of ways, we start to see it more in the public. So it's not that it's happening more, it's just now happening more where you can see it because folks are not going to go to jail because they're using drugs in the street. So it's, you know, all of these sort of things that are now implemented without a provision to ensure safe streets. So it becomes tricky when we sit down to have these meetings to then come up with a budget request. Xavier, I see your hand raised, please.
I thank you, Isaac and Robin, and everyone on this committee for the contributions. I think it is not with a lack of sensitivity. I appreciate it. It's really nice to hear such a respectful and embracing dialogue. So I want to say to everyone, thank you. I think sitting on many of these meetings and also to being out in the streets, listening to the community members, the concerns, talking with those that are suffering. I think it will be helpful for this committee to carry on the work of bringing in those treatment facilities to continue finding out who the good partners are that want to contribute. And I will recommend the committee, after we get through this budget process, re-engage with that assessment phase. I think, you know, the larger part of it is, yes, to the safer streets component, and yes, how do we ultimately prevent and protect the next generation as they grow up and realize that there are better choices to be made while doing our level best to help heal, and also to making sure that people can not have to trek across multiple boroughs and zip codes to receive the treatment they desperately need because other groups may not want it in their community, even though they have members who are suffering too. So I think it's taking a holistic approach, and as we carve it out from a budgetary request and how we find tentative solutions. How do we long-term approach the management of it from a borough and then city and then statewide process of engaging and healing and making sure the next generation grows up better than what we have over the past several generations. So that's really been a long-term system. I wanted to say thank you to all of you, and going to leave it with that.
Thank you, Xavier. What I think I'm going to do with this one, Marlene, so we're not stuck on this too long, is I would like to, the same way with that other request we had where April offered to submit edits by Wednesday. Can I also submit edits on this one by Wednesday?
Yes, just as long as the committee agrees on the request. Does
Okay.
the committee agree?
Yes. Does the committee agree on the request that is targeting this issue that we're talking about? So specifically, it would be broader than naming people or saying those people who don't live in East Harlem but receive services in East Harlem, to be a bit more broader to a public advocate who could, simultaneously offer advanced or enhanced information, but also part of that information is the opportunity to receive sort of escort services, safe passages from the treatment center to public transportation. Okay, so I guess a question I'll ask instead of do people agree, does anyone disagree? That way we can move this along any quicker. Okay, no disagreements, Marlene.
Okay, that's fine. I already see that you put add for this for the committee. And that's okay.
Okay.
So by Wednesday, just write that you'll do this by Wednesday, like I did for April, please.
Okay.
Write it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Write it in either one of these that you'll do it by Wednesday.
So do I need to write the request again or just put word revised by? Being that it's never been a thing.
No, you don't, yeah. Just put Isaac will revise by.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just copying this.
And then once that you revise it, then that'll come off because the district needs committee meets on the 13th, so that language that can't sit there. It needs to be clean when it goes to them.
Copy. I appreciate everyone's participation here, and I'm doing my best to get us through this in a timely manner, but it's important, and I appreciate everyone's engagement here. So the last one, last but not least, is a request related to concerns expressed about needles, drug paraphernalia in the areas surrounding open drug use clinics or facilities. So the reason for this, so this is again a request for other programs to address public health issue requests, but the reason would be there's a need to include personnel to routinely, I don't know how often we can, maybe twice a day or 3 times a day, to assess the facility's perimeter for needles and drug paraphernalia. So I see that we don't have any requests here specifically asking for a more periodic assessment of the grounds to ensure there's no paraphernalia on the grounds. Any thoughts here? Okay.
I agree with you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Disagreements, raise your hand. Marlene, should we, if I was to do this, this would be I want to ask you a question. I'm going to make a small edit in this real quick. This would be insufficient. What should I add to this? Would this be, this is not fleshed out enough, right? So it would be, so pretty much, do we need to say based on blank? Or can we just go into there's a need for, to include, because I was thinking, let's say, something like based on concerns expressed by residents surrounding, treatment facilities, that there is a need for, for this. Can I say that?
You would want to address it like you addressed the pest control one. So if you scroll back up, let me see, you guys asked for like DOHMH and pest control at one time.
And that is on row 10.
Thank you.
No problem. It says provide funding for proactive measures to mitigate rodent population in public housing, empty lots, construction areas, and trains. So, okay, so I'm going to say provide funding for proactive measures to, do we want to say mitigate,
Again, you could work on this on the floor or add it and then revise it by Wednesday.
Yes, let me do that with this one. That's okay.
Same thing, like I said,
Yeah,
it has to be done by Wednesday. If it's not done by Wednesday, then I am going to send it as is because it has to be clean, right? I can't say Isaac will revise. That doesn't mean anything to the district needs committee.
Really? They won't accept it?
No, Isaac, they won't accept it.
All right, copy. So that's good. I have my homework on top of my other homework. So that's cool. So I will be revising and rearticulating two of these two new ones. And April will be working to revise the request to promote vaccinations and immunizations. Am I correct in it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Okay, so are we done here? Are we officially done here?
You can, yes, so you could choose to prioritize these.
Okay, yes, we need to
So
prioritize
you help
this.
out the committee.
Okay, let's go. Staff ranking, correct?
Mm-mm. Committee ranking, because it's the committee's work.
Sorry. Okay. So I don't mind ranking them if you want to just put if you scroll all the way to the left, Marlene, so they can actually see the request. Yeah. Okay, so I will briefly read the request. Okay.
So you just want me to say left and you'll rank?
Yes, I'll rank. Yeah, if you stay left, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, so the first one is create or promote programs to destigmatize mental health needs and encourage treatment. Okay, so yes, I won't read the reasons, it's here on the screen. How do we want to rank this? You know, I'm not going to say high to everything, but I do.
I would suggest number 2.
Moderate, medium. Here's what we're going to do, right? So, in the spirit of stats, we'll average it. Okay. So I'll listen if I don't hear. If it's just me and Robin, so Robin says medium, I say high, then we're gonna just figure it out between there, because the third person will majority rules. But
Then I
thoughts,
correct
please.
myself. I say high.
Please weigh in, everyone. Please don't stay
I would
muted.
say high, just because I feel like this trickles into so many of the other asks. Like if we address mental health, everything else would be so much easier.
Thank you. I agree. High priority. Shall we go to the next one? Cool. Okay, so the next one is enhance. Oh, could we go to 4? I've already ranked the first one. Okay, so on row 4, enhance home care services. This is funding is needed to expand home care services for low-income seniors.
That
you removed it.
That's removed.
Oh, that is removed. Sorry, I'm not looking at that.
Mhm.
Okay, so row 5, is that the next one?
Yes.
Okay, increase case management capacity, provide funding for more caseworkers, increase the number of culturally competent caseworkers in District 11, specifically those who provide services in Spanish and French Creole. I think that's
I think that's a medium, because I think we have a lot of Spanish bilingual workers, but it's important to keep it there.
Any thoughts? Any other thoughts here?
I vote medium. I agree with Robin that I think there's a lot of resources. It's just about connecting people to those.
Okay, great. So I've marked that as medium priority. Can we go to row 6 now? 6 is other programs. Yes, thank you, Marlene. Other programs to address public health issues requests, more peer support. Outreach workers and social workers are needed in Community District 11 to provide information and support for people suffering from drug addiction. Okay, this is, okay, thoughts here. Please. I would say this is a high priority. This goes into what I feel like I'm.
Agree.
This may,
Next one?
Yes, okay. Yes, thoughts, high priority? What are we doing?
Yes, hi. No pun intended.
All right. So row, no, we're not on row 7 because we are articulating. Do we still vote? Should we still prioritize it, Marlene?
I'm sorry, did you rank number 6 yet? Robin said hi, you didn't rank it?
I did. It's high priority.
Okay, so now you're on 7 was the removal. No, what that was the
It's a
revision.
revision. Yes.
So yes, you still rank it because you kept it.
Okay. So on row 7, this will be revised. This was the request to promote vaccinations and immunizations. So this will be revised to include monkeypox as well as polio. High priority, medium priority.
I vote medium. I think it's important, but not critical.
Thank you. Oh, that's exactly what
I agree.
Okay, good. So we can move on to number 8, Marlene. Or row 8. Row 8. Provide more information and services related to STIs, HIV, AIDS, and family planning. How we want to, I feel like this is medium also in relation to everything else that sort of seems to be what's really pressing right now. Thoughts? Do we see, also thinking about our young people when we think about this too?
I just don't see this as a problem that goes away. I think it's forever, not a problem, but an issue. And I think it's important to raise awareness to HIV because so many people are just so innocently infected.
So we're going to mark this as a high priority. I'm for marking this as a high priority.
That's how I feel about it. I don't know how about anybody else.
Any oppositions, please list them. If not, we're going on to row 9. Row 9 is a revision.
This one's a removal.
Okay. So I have here row 9 as a revision, and it's a removal.
Removal. It was originally redundant, but now it's a removal.
Okay, that's what I'm looking. Okay, so priority. Oh, this is a removal. We don't need to. Let's go to row 10. And that is, am I correct? That is animal and pest control? Yes. So yes, priority is that I hate rats, but maybe that's a medium right now.
Yeah. I think medium, but I don't have to live with them. So
anybody got to walk in their building late at night and they get plagued by rats? Yeah. All right, so we'll keep it medium unless someone has any other thoughts on that. So row 11, we can move down. Other programs to address public health issues request. So this in particular is to explore alternative interventions for homelessness and substance abuse in parks, includes Marcus Garvey and Randall's Island. I think that's a high priority. I don't know.
Definitely.
I agree.
Okay. Yes. Oh, that's a baby. Yeah, I think we're in agreement too. High priority. Okay. So let's move on to row 12. Allocate funds for outreach services to homebound older adults for programs that allow the elderly to age in place.
I have to admit, I think this is a medium. Sad to say.
Any other thoughts? Okay, I'm going to rank this as a medium. as I also agree with that. But only to the extent of my ignorance. So please educate me as we go through this. 13, row 13.
This is another one
That's a
that's
removal.
redundant. It's a
That's a
removal,
removal.
great.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
good.
have a removal.
Thank you.
So row 14, we can go on there, Marlene. So row 14. Other programs to address public health issues requests. This is newer, less lethal drugs are now available as an alternative to methadone, but lack of funding is usually cited as reasons why the drug is slow to be adopted. Yeah, so this would allow patients to reduce frequency and distance travel. Okay, so you can read the, hold up. You're on 14. Is 14 the removal? Why the hell is it? Okay, anyway, 14, folks, how we ranking this? Newer,
Isaac,
lethal.
it said, doesn't it say remove?
It does, right? Oh, okay, I am not bugging. It does say.
It's
That was the
okay.
staff
sorry.
recommendation, guys. That
The
was
staff
just-
recommendation.
That was the
to
staff
remove.
recommendation to remove it. What did we recommend? I think from last week we had suggested to keep it.
So do you want me to write keep here?
Yes.
I mean,
please.
just throw the drop down. And keep
Yes. Yes, that's right. Keep here. And then let's rank this as high priority.
Okay.
So that's good. It coincides with the other high priority.
Interesting.
I would say, not to be difficult,
please.
I would probably put it medium or low, just because I don't think it's just funding for different medications. I think it's also, professional for the clinicians who are prescribing it. And I think it's much more complex. And if we don't have a bigger picture solution than just bringing in a new medication, I don't think it actually is impacting to the community. So I would just put it a little lower.
Okay, so are we okay with marking, am I correct? This is 14, yes, row 14 as medium priority. Is that fine?
Okay.
I'm fine with it. So row 15. Other healthcare services, other healthcare facilities requests. This is states a portion of the 1,200 residents of homeless shelters on Walls Island suffer from chemical misuse. Recommended providing mobile drug treatment support to Walls Island. So how do we want to rank this one? Thoughts? Okay. I'm going to rank this as medium priority.
I think so. I don't really understand it because I don't understand why a facility needs a mobile van to provide treatment.
Yeah, I also agree with you on that. But I think it's like I think yeah. So the last sentence is what I believe it is: requesting mobile treatment units be deployed towards Island to increase access to treatment. So not
Okay.
just. So I imagine like just I'm ignorantly drawn from my past understanding of living in the shelter system. You have access to social services only to the extent that you can see your caseworker or social worker. So there may be additional services that you can't access immediately through the shelter, and maybe these mobile units can be able to provide that additional service.
It's interesting because the agency is Health and Hospital, so now I understand it better. Thank you, Isaac.
Okay, good, good. So what priority do we want to list this at?
I think medium.
Okay, that is how I have it. No, medium priority.
Great.
Okay, great. So, so we're down to the last three, folks. Row 16 is other senior center programs requests. This is the request that Robin mentioned. There's a need for more culturally sensitive social support for Asian seniors. How do we want to prioritize this request? I think if there's a shortage of resources available to a particular community or demographic of our community, we should prioritize the request toward that community. So I would say that this should be high priority for that reason.
Thank you. I would suggest that too, but it's hard to justify that when it's 10% of the population.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Any
agree with
thoughts
you.
here?
I agree
Yeah.
with you.
Thoughts here? You know, just because it's a priority, like Marlene said, just because it's high priority to the community, it'll be high priority once it goes to the next step. So we can just mark how we believe it's important. That sound good to everybody? Yeah. I'm gonna take
Thank you.
silence as agreement. Okay. So we'll mark this as high priority. These are now the last two we're going to rank are the ones that I suggested. One is going to be towards a public advocate who will expand, I guess who can expand the innovative approaches to personal engagement around drug use and the harmful impacts of it, and also simultaneously offer some sort of escort provision or service from the facility to the train station. I would particularly mark this as medium low priority only because I don't see it right now in its best written form.
I would disagree with you because I understand the intent and I think it's a high priority.
Any other thoughts here? Yeah, sorry.
I think because of the repeated requests from our community to address the issues that this would potentially help, make it a high priority.
Thoughts here from any other members?
Yeah, I would also probably say high, just because I think if we frame it as a holistic approach, so it's not just, looking at ways to improve the experience for people who are accessing services, but also for people with children who are walking on the streets. And it's really taking a holistic, comprehensive perspective, and helping our community. I think that's incredibly high priority.
Thank you, April. Okay, it's marked as such. The last request is the request to provide more proactive measures to mitigate drug paraphernalia and needles around treatment facilities. I think that's a high priority.
I agree. The same reasons that April stated previously.
Yeah. If there are no disagreements, I'm going to say we're finished with this process right now. What do you think? Any thoughts, feedback?
Yes,
Marlene.
thank you, Isaac.
Yes.
Marlene, how are we? Are we good on this?
Yeah, you all are fine. If anybody has any input for the statement, you could just add comments into the Google Doc that I sent by email. And then the board office will see your comments from there. If you have comments to give.
Yes, please weigh in. Please weigh in. I definitely want to encourage folks to participate somehow. If you won't give feedback on the polls, please give your feedback and comments. Please participate in some way because we need your participation. So with that, I'm going to transition us to the next part of our meeting. Give me 1 second and pull it back to this agenda. So old business, no old business. New business, we don't have any new business, I don't believe. So are we good to do the roll call, Marlon?
Yes, you're good to do the roll call.
Do the roll call so we can adjourn
April Autry,
Present.
Juhaid Chowdhury, Judith Ferraro, Osendi Garcia, Brandon Gillespie, Jennifer Meyer,
Present.
Art Perez,
Present.
Isaac Scott,
Present.
Robin Stration,
Present.
and Anne Marie Vasquez. I think Anne Marie was having some kind of issue before.
So I just want to thank you everyone for participating and for being on tonight. Have a good night. I will see you all in about see you at full board. Actually, won't be too long from now. Y'all have a good night. Thank you for being with us through this. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marlene.
You're welcome.
Marlene, good night.
Good night.